Good morning. Good morning. My name is Nigel Jones, and this is Kingston 11 Cuisine, Jamaican restaurant here in Oakland. And welcome. We've been here for about 9 years now, almost, and we've seen some very important and productive years feeding Oakland. And over the last year and a half, we've struggled through the pandemic, but nonetheless, we totally bounced back. Still not 100%. We had support from the mayor to do several things, including building an outdoor dining facility that will allow us to maintain social distances for our customers and keep our business flowing. Additionally, from the governor, and we've been able to get a small business grant. In addition to that, outdoor or takeout alcohol, that was also important. When the pandemic first hit, we lost sales about 70% due mainly to non-alcohol drinks. So I'm happy to be in a situation now where we are with our elected officials and will be able to provide us additional support. As far as Kingston 11 is concerned, as we see ourselves as a community restaurant, we use that term community, but not necessarily just as words. It's very important for us. As small businesses like us exist, we also support all of our suppliers around here from all different produce that we purchase for our foods, fish, meats, et cetera, et cetera. So the ecosystem of the restaurant is pretty much the lifeline of the city. So when you're talking about community, it's not necessarily just us alone here. In addition to that, we've been able to, during the pandemic, feed several thousand low-income families throughout this whole period, because as the city and the state shut down, the schools where a lot of young kids will get their meals, they don't have that opportunity. So we stepped in, and in addition to the mayor and the governor with the support financially, allow us to not only support our community, but also maintain our working staff. So we are excited about the future. It's still very difficult as we move forward. So, you know, I'm equally interested to hear what the governor will be announcing today. And other than that, I would like to introduce our mayor, Ms. Libby Shaft. Thank you.
Good morning. It is always exciting to have the governor here in Oakland, California, lifting up what is successful uniquely in California. And I have to say, as a Californian, I could not be more proud of the support that this state provided our lifeblood, and that's our small businesses. The state of California provided more than $10 billion in combined tax relief and grants. This is something that the federal government did not do as good of a job at, although I know, Congressmember Lee, you were fighting for it, because you fight for us every day. And here in the city, we pivoted. We tried to get creative to respond to the moment and to support incredible businesses like Kingston 11 that not only support an entire ecosystem of businesses, but are culture keepers, are community gathering places. And this restaurant provides thousands of meals to to people who are suffering from food insecurity and to our unsheltered residents. And as a fun aside, the reason it smells so good right now is Kingston 11 is catering my State of the City event tonight. They're making 200 dinners while we talk. So you picked a great restaurant to highlight. They are so much more than just a business. They're community heroes. Now, cities like Oakland, we worked quickly to overnight permit outdoor spaces so people could continue to gather safely. We enjoyed the allowance of delivery of alcoholic beverages There were some nights that we all needed those to be delivered to our homes. And let us learn the lessons of this pandemic. There are things that we tried that our residents enjoyed and want to keep. And that is what I am hopeful is going to be part of this announcement that we are all looking forward to. How we are going to keep the lessons that we've learned from this pandemic to continue to support these cultural institutions, these pillars of our economy, our beloved small businesses. And with that, it's my pleasure to announce my assembly member, I think California's newest assembly member, and that is Mia Bonta.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to be able to host at Kingston 11 in Oakland, in the fine district of Alameda, Oakland, and San Leandro, District 18, the governor and our fellow legislators in this moment of being able to recognize that our small businesses are the lifeline to our communities. I'm so thankful to be able to have this opportunity to be able to know that when our restaurants closed, so did a part of our community. And here we had an opportunity through legislation and through the boldest, most progressive budget passed by this governor to ensure that that lifeline could be opened in AB 18 and throughout the state of California. We will hear some progressive legislation passed that will help us to be able to keep the moment that we had right now, that moment of relief while we were sitting in COVID, to know that we could still enjoy our restaurants and our spaces. And I'm so thankful that we have fellow legislators who are going to introduce legislation that the governor will hopefully sign today to ensure that the parklets and the opportunity to have on-the-go cocktails will be something that we can continue to have after COVID is long behind us. So thank you. Welcome to AB 18. Welcome to the most progressive, the boldest, the finest, the most wonderful district in the state of California, Oakland, Alameda, San Leandro, AB 18. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, welcome to the 13th Congressional District, the most enlightened and progressive and creative congressional district in the country. And also welcome to Oakland. So let me just say how happy I am to be here. And Nigel, let me just tell you how proud I am. First of all, that, you know, during very difficult times, some of the most creative ideas come forward. And you have truly shown what creativity and what really, when you pull together with the community and with our government officials and the private sector, what can be done during very dire circumstances. And so I'm very proud of what you have done, and definitely intend to showcase this restaurant, Kingston 11, with my California colleagues. And Mayor Schaaf, I want to thank you so much for your tremendous leadership. You know, I was a former small business owner before going to Congress. Started out with 3 individuals in my business, and over 11 years we grew to 450 employees. And let me tell you, had Mayor Schaaf, had the governor been the governor and the mayor, I wouldn't have faced so many barriers, struggles, and really horrific circumstances just to be a small business, a woman-owned business, and a minority-owned business who just wanted to create jobs and economic growth. But we finally did it, but it was really difficult. And what you have done during this pandemic, Governor, has been just amazing, because you have set forth policies, even before the pandemic, to make sure that our small, minority-owned, women-owned business not only survive, but thrive. And with now half of our workforce being small business, from small business owners, small businesses, I mean, this is critical to our economic growth in the state of California. And yes, we're leading now, even at this point in the pandemic, in terms of economic growth. And the future looks good, even though we're still faced with many of the challenges that are upon us. And I just have to say that this is truly a moment when we're coming together once again. And I want to thank everyone for working in my district, in your assembly district, in my city, in a very collaborative way with our governor, leading on so many fronts. And finally, I'll say, Governor Newsom, this is the first bill signing by a governor of the state of California since I was in the California legislature. And so I'm really proud to be here at the signing of these very important bills by Governor Gavin Newsom. Thank you again.
We prefer presidents. I'm not Governor Gavin Newsom, but I am Senator Scott Wiener. I have the honor of representing San Francisco and northern San Mateo County in the state Senate. I'm not going to get into an Oakland, San Francisco, who's more progressive. They're both amazing cities, sister cities in many ways. When this pandemic started and everything shut down, I was so deeply concerned that we were going to see just a mass die-off of restaurants and bars. I live in the Castro in San Francisco, and I was just so concerned about what was going to happen to our neighborhood restaurants and bars. And I don't want to leave the bars out. And especially in the LGBTQ community, we treasure our bars, and I was worried that they were going to die. They were going to close, and we were going to lose that critical part of our community. And when the outdoor dining started, when our cities pivoted and quickly allowed outdoor dining, both with restaurants and bars, and often with restaurants and bars working together, that was a lifeline. And I really want to commend the governor and ABC for quickly issuing emergency regulations to allow restaurants and bars to serve alcohol outdoors, which normally they wouldn't be able to do. And we know the business model without alcohol, it's really hard to make a go of it. And so what the governor and ABC did with these emergency regulations absolutely threw a lifeline to restaurants and bars in the state of California. And I know in San Francisco, I know so many of these small businesses that simply would not have survived absent these emergency regulations. And so today, I don't want to assume what the governor is going to do, but hopefully he'll be signing a few bills that make these emergency regulations permanent, that step back and say, we did this thing quickly during the pandemic, and as big a catastrophe as this pandemic was, let's take the good that we learned during this emergency and make it permanent. And so I want to really acknowledge my colleague up from Los Angeles, Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel. The two of us collaborated and worked in partnership on Senate Bill 314 and Assembly Bill 61. And although he will be rooting for the wrong team in tonight's game, he's a great legislative partner, and I'm really thrilled that we've been able to place these bills on the governor's desk. And what SB 314 does is allows ABC to extend these emergency regulations and to extend it for a year past the end of the state of emergency so that we don't just pull the rug out from these restaurants and bars as soon as the emergency ends, and we create space to make these parklets permanent. SB 314 also grants more flexibility for alcohol manufacturers to share space with bars and restaurants so we can have more shared space, and also makes it much easier for pop-up restaurants to exist. We have a lot of vacant space now, and we want our next generation of entrepreneurs to be able to create more pop-ups in these spaces and to be able to get more of these temporary liquor licenses to be able to do that. So I'm really excited that these bills will hopefully become law, and it's now my honor to introduce my colleague and legislative partner, Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel.
Thank you, Senator Wiener. As the senator mentioned, I am the token Dodgers fan here, and there are a lot of things I want to say about the game tonight, but I really want this bill signed, and I'm mindful of the fact that the guy who holds the pen is from San Francisco, so I'm going to keep it focused on public policy right now. But I do want to thank Senator Wiener for his incredible partnership on all of this, thank the governor for his incredible leadership. It's such a privilege to be here with such a distinguished group of elected officials. And I think, as you heard said so beautifully by Nigel, Neighborhood restaurants are the backbone of communities across the state of California. And right now, so many of them are barely hanging on by a thread. And as we heard, outdoor dining has offered a critical lifeline. It's allowed these businesses to keep their doors open, and that's something that we want to make sure continues. This is one of the good things that has come out of this pandemic. And outdoor dining is going to continue to be important, and I will give myself as a personal example of this. I'm fully vaccinated, my wife is fully vaccinated, but we have 3 little kids that aren't. We have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a little guy who's a 1.5 years. And so right now, we're not yet fully comfortable with indoor dining. But we do want to go out to eat. We do want to support the incredible restaurants in our communities so that they can continue to thrive. Sometimes on a Sunday night, we just want someone else to clean up after our kids so we can have a little break. And so we really want outdoor dining, and we want it to be able to continue because it is safe and consistent with our public health priorities and what we think is important for our family. It's also really important from an equity perspective. We know that the restaurant industry employs one of the most diverse workforces in the state of California. 6 of 10 restaurants in this state are owned by people of color. We can all think of incredible stories of immigrants who have come to this state and who have opened restaurants and used that as a way to climb into the middle class. And we know that this pandemic has hit communities of color and low-income communities much harder. And so the work that we're doing to support the restaurant industry has an important equity component to it as well. So this is something that is really important that we're hopefully going to do today to allow folks to continue to do this. In addition to, I wish all of you could smell how good it smells in here because it smells incredible. But I also wish you could see the amazing setup that's out there in the back. But what we have heard from business owners and from restaurateurs across the state is that they want some certainty that that's going to be able to continue. Because it's expensive to go out there and buy additional tables, to do the setup, to create the kind of beautiful ambiance that they've created outdoors so that people can dine and enjoy their meal outside. And so the work that we can do here is to give small business owners the certainty that if they make those investments, if they use their space creatively, if they have more tables so that they can bring more of their employees back to work and serve more people in their community, that they'll have some certainty that outdoor dining is going to continue. So we're very grateful for the partnership of Senator Wiener, of our local elected officials, and I do want to give a special shout out to our governor because this kind of work does not happen without leadership at the top. He and his administration have been outstanding leaders and partners for folks in the legislature who want to do this work. I know people have said often that there are, tried to create a false choice between public health and between supporting small businesses, and that is something that we have rejected here in the state of California. I think the results that this governor has produced in terms of keeping my family safe, keeping our state safe, and also allowing our economy to thrive speak for themselves. So it is my great privilege to introduce an outstanding leader and an outstanding partner, Governor Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments, Mr. Assemblymember. And to the Congresswoman, Madam Mayor, thank you for the privilege of your presence here today, particularly on an important day. I don't know that I would be here today if I was in your shoes because you've got a State of the City later tonight, and I know all the preparation, time, energy that you've put into that, and I'm grateful, though, you took the time to be here on this important bill signing. And also, I want to thank the Senator and new Assemblywoman that represents the most progressive, the finest, the best, the most diverse battle district in the state of California. And Nigel, thank you for opening up your business, particularly this time of the day. Normally, folks like you would be asleep. So I'm grateful you took the time to be here and to express not only your support and appreciation for what we're trying to do, but to allow us to reciprocate and thank you for your support of all of us. It's not lost on any of us, the power and potency of establishments like yours. It's the antidote to all of the stress that so many have felt over the last year and a half. In particular, so many of us feeling isolated, feeling disconnected, so many friendships, relationships that have atrophied because of this pandemic. The opportunity to come here is not just about extraordinary food. In fact, if it's about food, we can all order in, we can make food every single night. It's about experiences. It's about magical moments. It's about the serendipity that is life. It's about meeting someone that may become your life partner. It's about finding your soulmate. It's about having an experience or hearing an expression or a point of view that, marks a moment in your life that changes the trajectory of your life. It is all of those intangibles that tangibly make life worth living. It's about experiences. And we're so desperate for those right now. And we need to feel connected once again. We need to feel seen and heard. And so much of what we're struggling with societally here in Oakland, all across this country, in terms of some of the friction and frustration, the otherness, honestly, is represented in the lack of that kind of engagement. And so it's really important that businesses like this not just survive, but thrive, and that we have their backs and we support efforts like we're supporting and advancing here today. And so I'm really proud of the legislature because almost universally, we've not only embraced this industry and the supports, but we've also stretched our mind, because it wasn't that long ago getting a table and chair permit could take a year or two. And you had local opposition, the city council wasn't necessarily enthusiastic, boards of supervisors weren't sure, and then even if you got through those local jurisdictional bodies, then you had the Alcohol Beverage Control of Sacramento said, well, time out, no, no, no. And days become weeks, months, years, and then as a business person, you just give up. But now we've just broken past that mindset, and now, eat your heart out, Paris. It's like, you go all across the state and you're like, why haven't we done this 20, 40, 30 years ago? And the biggest fear and anxiety I think all of us have had as consumers, not just businessmen and women, but is like, please don't take this away. Don't let them take this away after this pandemic. And so that's what these bills represent. Not only we don't want to take this away, this is a pathway for these businesses to frankly make up for a lot of the constraints that have been imposed upon them over the course of the last 18 months. The great thing about being able to do these parklets and these outdoor spaces is the costs associated with the uptop capital quickly is recouped, because you're not necessarily going back to your landlord, not necessarily in most cases, and having to pay for that extra space. All of a sudden you've expanded the number of seats, you've expanded the number of SKUs in sort of the lexicon of retail. You've expanded the opportunity to sell more and more of your product, and you've also expanded the opportunity to hire more and more people. So it's a virtuous cycle. It's about activating streets. It's about making people feel safer, more energized, more engaged, more creative. Just look at the creative expression around here, not least of which I was just reading those remarkable words up on the wall. Talk about sort of the serendipity that is life, this notion that one day we can look beyond the color of our skin and look at it as nothing more interesting than the differences of our colors of our eyes. I mean, just things like that you don't experience unless you have an experience of coming into a business or establishment like this. Forgive me for the long-windedness on this point, but some of you also know I come from this world before I got into politics, restaurants and bars, and so I'm very passionate about the work Nigel and his team do, and it's work. This is not easy. Businesses like this, in the best of times, struggle. And so we have to do more. $4 billion of grants we put out as a state. We've waived license fees for renewals for the next 2 years, ABC license fees and other fees. We did $147 million in a hiring tax credit, up to $1,000 for everybody that's hired in new tax credits. Put more CalCapetes dollars out, more manufacturing tax credits, more sales tax credits. This year's business support's unprecedented in California's history. We stepped up with grants, not just loans, tax credits across the spectrum, focusing on micro businesses, businesses that fall through the cracks, not just minority-owned businesses, but many businesses that are here, mixed status, that we're struggling with access or lack of access to credit and banks. We're making sure we get grants and loans to them as well, not just larger, well-established businesses. We do know, we have a lot of work to do, and I'll just close on that. Today, the president highlighted the fact that our unemployment rate in this nation now has dropped below 5%, which is significant. It's an important and significant milestone in this country. And while the job numbers are about 194,000, those get adjusted up and down over the course of the next few weeks when the dust settles. And in any other economy, an economic recovery, you'd say that's just extraordinary and great. But I know we have high expectations because we still have a lot of work to do to get ourselves fully back from this pandemic. I want to note, though, California, we're the tentpole of the American job recovery. Last month, 44% of America's jobs, 44% of America's jobs came out of the state of California, over 104,000 jobs. This state, since January, has had the privilege, because of Nigel's work and other business leaders all up and down the state and their entrepreneurial spirit and their resiliency, to have created just shy of 750,000 jobs. No other state comes close in terms of that job creation. It's led to unprecedented surplus, which allows us to unprecedented investment back in to the small business community, back into the pockets of hardworking men and women all up and down the state of California. I just need to make that point because I'm proud of California's resilience. We're proud of our recovery, though we are mindful of the work we have in front of us and the work that remains to have a fully equitable recovery, not just here in California, but all across our nation. And so with that, let's advance this cause that unites us and these efforts by signing 3 important pieces of legislation. And very briefly, the last 15 seconds, this, as the senator said, codifies some of the work we did on a temporary basis last year to allow for takeout of mixed drinks and cocktails and booze broadly defined in a responsible way. It also codifies our efforts to expand the footprint of these businesses and to remove the burdens that the state imposes in terms of the flexibility that local governments like Oakland provide in terms of making determinations for themselves, Madam Mayor, not imposing that determination, providing you flexibility in terms of your zoning and your rules and regulations as it relates to these parklets and these outdoor areas. And as the senator said as well, and I appreciate the nuances in his legislation that you two worked on, which was impressive around more catering permits, which allow more pop-ups and allow more creative use of existing space. And so much innovation comes out of that space that legislation is more important than perhaps people may believe if you just read it. And so I'm really grateful to you, Senator, and you, Assemblymember Gabriel, for the wisdom and your leadership that you are providing us with this opportunity to sign this bill with this pen, not the other. With that, let's sign these 3 pieces of very pro-restaurant, pro-small business legislation. Senator, Assemblymember. Well, we got to do the mayor. Got to do mayor. Sorry, wait, Assemblywoman and mayor and Congresswoman. I got nothing to hold up except
Hold up your pen.
gratitude. That's all. Hold the gratitude. Awesome. Thank you. We are here to answer any questions, though the mayor may have to take off. I don't know, but I can't believe you are here on the state of the
Governor,
city. That's very
I
kind
did
of
a
you.
film, so it's all done.
Oh, you do? Oh, no, what? Now I know why you're so relaxed. All right. Nothing. This did not make sense until that last moment. Forgive me. Okay.
Governor Carla Marinucci from Politico. As you know, there's been some good news on the COVID front as health officers in the Bay Area jurisdictions have issued conditions under which mask wearing rules are going to be lifted. How do you feel about the counties pulling back on that? Do you think the state is going to follow through? And I have another question too. But,
No, I think the Bay Area, particularly San Francisco's decision to begin to modify the mask wearing is a positive sign. It's an encouraging sign. It's a sign of progress in our nation-leading effort with the lowest COVID case rate in the country. But I am deeply mindful, and I want to make this point, marking that optimism and marking with pride the fact that we have, over the course of the last few months, consistently had the lowest case rates in this country, and among the lowest positivity rates, 5th lowest as I speak today, 2.5%. That this time last year, we were experiencing not dissimilar optimism, only to experience that winter surge. It wasn't the summer surge last year, it wasn't the summer surge this year, it was the winter surge in California and in many other states. So I'm deeply mindful of that, and I want folks to know that's the answer to the why we moved forward as a state with vaccine requirements in our public schools. That's why we're leaning into that, because we are anticipating those challenges into the fall and winter. That's why LA moved in the direction they moved this week with additional requirements as it relates to indoor activities and establishments. And that's why I continue, to your question, support local decisions based upon regional criteria and considerations that are distinctive all throughout the state.
And Governor, one more question, not COVID related, but relates to Elon Musk's announcement yesterday. Elon Musk tweeted this morning exactly, that's his words, with regard to a story that said he is leaving California based on an explicit tweet from California Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, who tweeted, F Elon Musk. You know him, you've said before you know him. What is your message to him and other tech CEOs or CEOs thinking of making the same move? And do you think that tweet was appropriate, by the way?
I honestly, literally do not know about the tweet, so I'm not even being able to respond about the tweet. If that's why someone wants to move out of state, I receive tweets like that probably on an hourly basis. And I'm staying here and I love this state. I've known Elon 20 years, and I really appreciate the investments he's made, his innovation, his entrepreneurial spirit, pushing out the boundaries, and affording himself appropriate status of being one of the world's great innovators and entrepreneurs. I mean, what an extraordinary, extraordinary talent. He has invested untold amounts of money in this state to create thousands and thousands of jobs, but more importantly, he's pushed out the boundary of what's possible. I was very proud. No one asked me, not one person. I was all over the state. Not one person asked me to comment about the 6.5-acre investment that SpaceX made in a new Long Beach facility, just significantly and substantially expanding their footprint and investments here in California. And if someone had asked me about that, I would have said that's a mark of California's leadership and progress, and we mark that as a thoughtful, responsible investment, and very, very encouraged by it. Accordingly, I was encouraged to read about Elon's commitment to increase production in California by 50%. That would mark a headline in any other traditional day as well. I also am proud that California is the fastest growing economic jurisdiction in the world over the last 5 years. In fact, we've grown at 21% GDP. We have outpaced all Western democracies, Germany, Japan, the United States, and substantially outpaced Texas. With respect to Texas, they've grown at 12% GDP in the last 5 years, California 21%, not even close. I'm proud of the fact that this state dominates in factory jobs, dominates in manufacturing growth, it dominates in manufacturing growth. You look at the latest numbers, 13% GDP growth in manufacturing. The next 10 largest manufacturing states, none of them rival California's factory and manufacturing growth. I'm proud of the fact no other state in America comes close, even on a adjusted per capita basis, to have enjoyed more IPOs this year. Or once again led with the Bloomberg Index as the #1 innovation state in America. I'm proud of the fact we had record-breaking venture capital last year, record-breaking. I'm proud of the fact that we maintained our status with over a quarter of the nation's unicorns being located and headquartered here in California. Those are the next Teslas. The innovation and entrepreneurialism here is, we have no rivals, no peers. That's why we're running $80+ billion operating surplus. And I'm also mindful we need to invest in our lead. And that's what we're not only announcing here today in the micro in terms of just some targeted strategies, but in the aggregate, Nigel, you represent where jobs are growing in California. 4.1 million small businesses in this state, roughly half the job growth, or rather half the jobs in the state of California coming from small businesses like this. So yes, we support large, well-established companies. And by the way, it would be interesting to get the facts on how much California has invested in Tesla. No other, I mean, the hundreds of millions of dollars of tax subsidies we provided that company. Our regulatory environment helped create that company and grow that company. There was no real category. It took his ingenuity and entrepreneurial genius, but it also took a regulatory environment to encourage it here, to nurture it. And that's why, in closing, and this deserved a long response, forgive me, I'm proud of the fact we have 60 EV companies in California, headquartered in California. All right, 59. I'm proud of the fact 34 of them are manufacturers. And I'm proud that our #1 export is electric vehicles. And I'm proud that we invested $3.9 billion this year to expand our investments in electric vehicles, including $1 billion to convert the next iteration of electric vehicles, which is trucks and buses. I mean, we're not just doubling down on our investment in the future. We're leading the world in terms of investing in clean energy and electric vehicles, including the first state in America to require all electric vehicle purchases in California. I would appreciate a tweet on that. So I say all that because I have reverence and deep respect for that individual you reference. But I also have deep reverence and respect for the state and what we represent and what we've done to support those investments. And so I'm looking forward to more investments in the future. And I'm looking forward to continue to have no peers in terms of economic growth and prosperity into the future. California, our best days are in front of us.
Good morning, Governor. Matt Bigler, KCBS.
Matt, I promise this will be a shorter response, no matter where you go with.
It should be easy. It's the sports question.
Oh,
Were you
geez,
planning
okay.
to make any wagers on the Giants-Dodgers playoff game?
This is hard. I'm a governor of California. We did well down in LA County in those recall. This is tough on me, right? But I'm a San Franciscan. I'm the kid that, forgive me, KCBS, that fell asleep every night. My mom had to turn off KMBR because throughout the season I was listening, waiting for Will Clark to. That sort of shows my age. Well, maybe it was Willie McCovey back when I was falling asleep. Will Clark, I was still awake. But I'm, you know where my loyalties are as a Bay Area kid. But I also did my State of the State down at Dodger Stadium, and I'm still here in Northern California. I survived that. So I'm happy that California team will win. But you all know which team I'm rooting for. And I've seen this is the problem. I got two colleagues that are, I have great respect for, are not happy that I even said that. And that was mild versus what I'm really thinking.
Get any wagers?
Oh, you asked the see, I didn't even answer your question. Padilla is calling me. Senator Padilla, you think he's talking to me about, I don't know, this omnibus bill you're working on or something? He wants to talk about a wager. Says he's a big, that's what your senator, call your senator. He's got some wager, so there's something may occur in the next few hours. Watch that space. Watch that space. So I'm talking way out of school right now. Anybody else?
Hi there, Governor. Melissa Colorado with NBC Bay Area News. Are there any concerns with booze to go until the end of 2026, if I'm not mistaken, that we might see an increase in DUIs and there's going to be this lax sort of impression? Because I got to tell you, here in Oakland, during the height of the pandemic, during 2020, we saw pop-up bars along Lake Merritt that had no permits. I even saw a pop-up hookah bar of folks being very creative, if you will. And are you concerned that these bills that you're going to sign, or you've already signed rather, are going to give this sort of a lax impression that anything goes now when it comes to booze?
Look, we're always concerned about that space, but laws are the laws. It's incumbent upon us to enforce them, not just letter of the law, but the spirit of the law, encourage responsible consumption. I will say these bills are nuanced compared even to the executive orders that I signed. And that nuance includes a food component, and includes a component for pickup, not delivery now. So they're more restrictive, less permissive than the old executive orders. And I think it goes in the direction of your expressed and observed concerns. And so, look, that will be Localism is determinative in terms of that enforcement. I know the mayor is equally concerned about any business that's operating without permits or doing so in a manner that's inconsistent with our values in public health and safety. And we all will be mindful of that, and we should be mindful of that. Responsible, safe consumption, responsible and safe operations, meeting the letter and spirit of the rules and regulations that we set forth.
California COVID rental assistance. I know we talked about a September 30th deadline, but if you're still processing an application, filling it out at home, is it a hard out in the week, or is there still an opportunity for you to get that application?
No, we're encouraging people to get these applications in, and we encourage landlords and tenants to do so for no other reason than this. While the September 30th moratorium on evictions expired, there was an extension as it relates to court-imposed eviction processes from occurring that goes through March 31st, 2022, as long as you fill out an application. And all we need is proof of the application process beginning in order to address those legitimate concerns. So there are billions of dollars remaining to be distributed, billions of dollars available to pay 100% of your rent going back to April of last year, 100% of your water, your utility bills going back to April of last year, and paying them through September 30th. And so encourage people that haven't availed themselves, particularly low-income members of our community, 80 to 80% of what we refer to as AMI, to fill out those applications and maintain those protections. With that, let me thank all of you for protecting small businesses, and thank you for the privilege of your time today. Take care.
Can we get some photos of you?
Yeah, that's good.